try to get everybody to know everybody. We've been dealing with this COVID thing, and so we haven't been able to get out to the community like we normally would. So at some point, let's all take the little bit of time just to reach out, call someone, introduce ourselves, somebody random in the coalition and the community, and let's do whatever we can to work together. One of the things I will say too about this coalition, we are not just working locally, we've been recognized nationally also. Recently, a member of ours and a cohort in our economic empowerment was on NPR, none other than Murray Edwards, and he was talking about and mentioning in front of 5 million people what we're doing here in Washington State with the Washington State Coalition of African Community Leaders. Even though he was in St. Louis, Missouri, they're looking at what we're doing here. I want to also mention that there are people in Africa looking at what we're doing here. So let's be mindful of the power and the positive influence that we have throughout our entire diaspora. So without holding you any further, I'm going to get you ready for the next section here, which we're going to start doing is reporting. Is that what's going on? Yes. So we're going to get ready for our reporting. I want you to remember, this is the season, we call it the holiday season here in America, season of giving, receiving, blessing, and all that. Let's not limit ourselves to what we're going to do. Let's dream big. Let's have big visions. And remember, everything that's happened to us has been planned by somebody. Old saying that if you're not at the table, you what?
You are at the table eating crumbs.
Is it not? Is it been? What is that?
You're on the menu. You're on the menu.
That's right. That's right. So we want to take the time to really do some planning, and we have to think ahead multi-generations because our young people that are coming behind us, they need to have more to build on than what we're being left with. And not that was a little, we were left with a lot, we had a good start, we don't want to lose ground, I guess that's what I'm saying. And so let's continue to move forward in a very positive way. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things the coalition did with this board, joining this board that's serving right now, was to ensure that on that board, we have at least one person native. So, we know most of us were born on the motherland. We moved here, we migrated here, but we have brothers and sisters who came here before us, Doesn't matter how they came here, but they're here, and they've been fighting to connect with us from motherland and diaspora with a bridge for that. So having Henry in the community, he's introduced us to so many things. What's connected us, that bridge is happening right now. We're starting in Seattle. So that's amazing to have Daniel as our president of the Washington State Coalition. Now I'll hand it over to another board member who's our treasurer. No, let's do differently. We're gonna start with our AD.
I think that Henry covered that.
Oh, Henry's gonna cover this?
Yeah, and it's you to cover the other ones.
All right.
The board board.
Yeah, let me run through this real quickly. We all work together as a board. We should sit in one of those board meetings. We barely work. All right, so as you know, the 501c3 has been a battle for a while. Some people, they say this like, why is it taking so long? All other organizations, they get this quickly. Why is it taking so long? We have an attorney who guides us through this process for us. We want to make sure that we get it right. We're not a political organization, but we do want to sit on the table. So the language in the bylaw has to make sense. So we've registered. We're just waiting for to get the final part of it, right? Yeah. Henry already spoke about we are one, so I'm not gonna go through that again. Leadership development. One of the things the coalition did differently, and we're gonna continue doing differently, is not just choosing leaders just because they show up one day for the meeting. From what I remember in the past, you would attend the coalition meeting the day of maybe the selecting the new board. If you raise your hand, people voted, you're a new board member. Good to go. We've learned from that process, and that's not the way to create leadership and grow. You have to select people who are willing to do the job, but also they have skill set, or they're willing to learn, because I do believe that everybody has skills. So when we had 2 board members left the board for various reasons, we sat down, took the time, looked into the community, and found 2 leaders, and that was Ketiwe Chitewere and Daniel Abuga. What Daniel Abuga brings to the board, the finance skill set that he has. Hence, we're having this meeting today where we're going to present the financial report. But at the same time, Ketiwe, she's very structured, and she has marketing skills. She keeps us on our toes, organization. So with that, we had her to join the board. She accepted, and how those 2 people joined. Thank you. Myself, I've been aboard since the beginning, about 2 years ago. My name is, like I said, Eddie Nyasu from Malawi. My husband, father of 2, proud of that sometimes. I work, my day job, I work at Amazon. I'm an operations manager, site leader. Right now, my office is in Kirkland. I have about 450 employees that I manage. I'm also a real estate developer. This is new to me. I just started this last year. I'm doing this in Malawi, not here, trying to go back home at some point. I'm also a website developer. I've created a few websites out there for community. For the website development, for me, it's not necessarily to make money, but mostly to help the community, to take our communities to the next level, and that's online. So like the Coalition website, Mother Africa website, I developed those. So I'm very proud of that. Next book, we have board member, we have Ketiwe Chitewere. She's a white mother of 3. 25 years of community leadership in different positions in government organizations. We are so fortunate to have her. Her day job is cybersecurity marketing at Microsoft. She's a big boss at Microsoft. And lately, she's also herself gotten into the real estate investor, not developer, but investor. You see the thing here, right? Henry, real estate, Eddie, real estate, and now Ketiwe real estate as well. We can go next. Thank you. Henry gave his background, so I'm not going to torture you with all his achievements. He already did that. Daniel Abuga spoke a little bit about him, but also father and husband to 5 kids. He's Kenyan. He's got 3 more to go. He'll have 8 at the end of the day. Daniel Abuga's wife is in the audience. She's going to kill me after this.
Listening to that, right?
Daniel is also CEO of Dan Clear Financial. I'm sure most of you have heard of them. They do life insurance. How wonderful is this that in our community, we have a company that can help our generation or the next generation, and life insurance is where to go. And I think at this point, we've all watched the videos. We know the importance of having life insurance. So you want to speak to Daniel about that? He's more than welcome to do that. And they have a website as well, danclear.com. He's an inspirational community leader. He's been in leadership since from Minnesota, where he lives for many years. And now here in Seattle, there are a few organizations here in Seattle, in the Kenyan community, that has been part of creating those organizations. So we're proud of him to have him here. Lately, he's been, I don't know what word we call it, but he became a deacon What do they do when ordained? He's an ordained deacon. So he may preach at the end of this meeting today. And again, he's a mentor in the community to the young male and female who are trying to get to the next level. The last we have board member who is representing as our secretary is Hannah Ashigre. Hannah, you haven't seen her for a while. She went back to Ethiopia. She's from Ethiopia. And she's working from there for us here. But she's very much involved in the public health, and she's very passionate about it. Top retailer, an advocate for youth. She was part of the youth committee that we have in our coalition. So this is our board members who are running this. Next, we have our staff. You know, we realized at some point this year that just volunteering is not enough. It's not getting us. It's getting us somewhere, but we can do more if we hire people who have the skill set to do the job that I can't do. And I'm proud to have introduce our ED, Martha, hardworking. You can catch her at 3 in the morning, at 3 p.m. I don't know how she does it. She's a proud dog-filled bulldog. She'll say that over and over everywhere. I don't know what it is. I didn't go to high school here or college. Now you know what that is. She's worked in nonprofit for many, many years and spent a lot of time in healthcare industry in Texas. But we're proud to have her here. And I can't speak enough of how hard and how much work she's put in the coalition. It's amazing to see someone who migrated to the US at a young age, a very young age, but her roots are deep-rooted in the African community. It's amazing to watch that and see that and learn from that. And we also have Ms. Patricia Saku. Patricia, she's from Cameroon. We were not talking earlier, finding leaders in our community and bringing them on board and nurturing them. She's an example of that. She came to the coalition. I remember she sent me an email a long time ago, just trying to be part of the community. And then I've watched her grow within our organizations as well. And now she sits in our board meetings every couple of times a week. And we sit there sometimes 3 hours. And she's still there. She lives in Bellingham, so if you're looking forward to move to Bellingham, she'll cook for you for the first couple of weeks until you get established. She does project management. Also, she's an entrepreneur. I know she's going to hit you up with online merchandise very soon. This is what makes the board and the executive as well as the staff. Thank you very much. Now we get to the money. I'll have our ED take over from here so she can talk about exciting stuff, the grants, the money, the billions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so. Thank you. Okay, thank you guys all for coming here.
Your laptop, pushing you on your laptop.
Is that better? Yes. Okay. All right, thank you guys all for coming. I think so folks who've been around a little bit, I don't know if you're familiar, if you remember this, I think I brought this out like in April 2020, so it's been a minute, but I just wanna refresh your memory about this because in the end, this is what this board is focused on. So we know that as you guys have seen from our profiles, several of us have a background in nonprofit. So we've seen, multi-million dollar corporations, because nonprofits are corporations, we forget that sometimes, and how they operate. And with that knowledge, with the political knowledge, with business influential leaders that we've connected with and that we know, especially the natives in the South, this is why our focus is a lot larger than I think you would normally see. So we're just to remind you, on the right side, most nonprofits focus their attention there, right? So in there, there's thousands of dollars, and the largest kind of known foundation in the greater Seattle area right there is $111 million is their annual revenue. And that's a Seattle foundation. And they've done a lot for a lot of, especially grassroots nonprofits like ours. But when you actually drill down, only out of that 111, 46 million is actually going to the investment line. Okay? So they're not giving out everything. And why? That's why they sustain themselves. They have diversified their income, their revenue streams. They're not just depending on donors. Okay, so that's number one. You see that theme with all of those large foundations. So you see Group Health Foundation, that amount that they have. Again, we're talking millions, right? Now on the left-hand side, this is where we don't focus our time or our efforts. And I'm going to show you the financial case why we should. It's not just, the coalition, new board just talking something, we're just talking out of nothing. So the total budget on the billion side is $6 billion, and that's for the city of Seattle. That's our largest, city in the state of Washington. Out of that $6 billion, 1.6 of that, $6 billion is discretionary funding, which means it can go wherever the mayor or the city council wants it to go, basically. It's kind of boost funding. Next, you have King County, largest county in the state, $11.7 billion. And then finally, the state of Washington's budget is $105 billion. Okay? So, with that being said, I want to take you through an example of why working together is so critical. Can you go back one? At the very bottom, I'm showing you the example of what we did as a coalition. At the beginning of 2020, we engaged, and we have one of the leaders here, 2 different community leaders or groups, and we asked them to work together as a coalition. Now, in that experiment, they didn't know each other. They never worked with each other before. When you talk to at least one of them, they were like, oh, we work with our own community, and that's it. We don't want to work with anyone else, right? We know a lot of people feel like that. So we encouraged them, and through our connections, they decided to work together. And with that, they had, I think it started with 15 kids, and ended up being 8 at the end. But they worked together, and what they first discovered was it wasn't even about the money, because the money didn't even come when it was supposed to come, right? That's actually the other side of the grant world, is you never know when it's gonna actually show up. But it was the manpower taking the kids places, it was handling the events, it was doing the paperwork that took the most time, and took technical knowledge and professional knowledge, and really coaching the kids, which takes a lot of effort for all the parents in the room to understand, right? So in the end, they chose to continue to work together up until this day. Almost 2 years they've worked together. And with that, they have, fostered their own relationship, and they've been asked to do things for other things together. But that wouldn't have happened if the coalition wasn't there as a trusted partner. We actually fronted the costs until they got paid, and we allowed it to happen by being this, intermediary between the two. So had they gone on the right-hand side, and had they done it alone, that one, each of them separately, they would have gotten no more than about $10,000. But because of the manpower plus the money, they were able to do it and then get recurring money. They're always being asked to come and do something in that same funder, right? Because now they know them, they know their work, they know their quality. So this is what can happen under the coalition when we all work together. Is that number one, you're not gonna get the type of money, and they have been asked actually to go after a very large amount of money. You're not gonna get that kind of money on your own, right? And number two, I know you guys all know this, but what is short for all of us is volunteer power. We're all short on volunteer power. Forget even the technical knowledge of how to handle kids or anything else. The volunteer power is where we're very limited and we need help. So I just wanted to emphasize that. So the next slide. Yes. Bring it up. Okay. Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, so I'll try to be quick. The next one. Yeah. So this is really important. You guys got cameras, take a picture. This comes directly from ProPublica, and it's showing you the latest revenue for the nonprofits, the ethnic nonprofits in Washington State. So it's either 2019 or 2020. Now you guys have heard me, all the leaders, they know when I'm meeting, I talk about this. But I'm actually showing you. So if you can see on the left-hand side, these are the largest African nonprofits by revenue and African American. And as you can see, I don't know how many people know Clinton, Washington, but the one in Clinton, Washington, it's called African Entrepreneur Collective, took in a revenue of 2.5 million. The other three in the greater Seattle, or the other two in the greater Seattle African organization, less than 1.5 million, okay? And then the final, the Urban League of Seattle, most of you know that, they have a revenue of over 9 million, okay? So 9 million is the largest on the African descent side. Now, when we go to the right side, the Asian, Latino, and Jewish, we all know something about those groups, right? Even without saying anything, you all know, right? Before I say what I'm about to show you. So the largest is Asian Resource Center on MLK, $25 million. The lowest is 11 million with those groups. Now, I want to ask you, this is for real, what do you think they do that we can't do over here on the African descent?
Nothing.
Who's most educated? Can anyone take it back? Yes. Olivia. I don't. Who's the most educated immigrant that comes to the U.S.?
Africans.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even have to say African American, we have the most innovative, we have all other things. Why is it that the left-hand side can't get more than 2.5 million?
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. We can't work together. So when I showed you those billions, I was at a BIPOC. I don't know how many have been here online. If you were on that BIPOC executive directors group, where the BIPOC leaders, legislators were on there, and Representative Tully Harris, she's a first-year representative who used to be an executive director, just like us. And she said, "Guess what, guys? I know exactly how you feel. I was just playing the game. I was just as competitive fighting with each other, right? That's what we do." But she said, "I'm here to tell you, I've been on the other side. I've seen the money. There is no reason for us to be fighting each other." And we're the problem. Because we're too busy trying to say, well, I don't want to work with Nasari because Nasari does blah, 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 blah. Whatever, So I don't want to work with Eddie because Eddie did this. So, but you know what they can do? They can say, you know what, I don't marry my child. I don't want you to marry my child. You know what, I don't really like you either. But guess what, let's go to the table, the decision table, let's all work together. Let's get the bigger pot and split up. So if you guys don't take anything away from this whole thing today, I hope you can see the money. and the dollars. Because just like Representative Holly Harris, you will never get that with your little individual organization. You will never get that. The most you're gonna get from them, I think the grant rate is $250,000, and you're lucky if you get it next year. But if you work together, if we work together, and we say, hey, you take childcare over here, you take this over here, let's split it up, but let's come together and talk to the influential politicians, and we're all on the same game. We're gonna get way more. We're talking millions and millions and millions. But we'll never get there on our own because we're cute and we wanna be sole proprietor and, the captain of our own ship. That's falling, okay? It's sinking. Okay, so, my last point is just, testimonials, and you can see this video. But these are actually from the people who are here to serve, and that's directly the community members. So this is from one of the grants. And you can see the written testimony from Zanzibar. This is from the Union of Tigrayan Women. And it was during COVID. So now I want to just kind of summarize quickly the grants, because that's what I'm here to serve you for. In a nutshell, we basically got about 15 grants since the fall of 2019 to present day. And we've had 5 different fiscal sponsors. Several of our grants were assigned fiscal sponsors by the funders, and they only supported a certain grant or type. So that's why we had more than one. And then the survey data focus group, the grants we received went to support translation of health materials, collection of engagement projects and activities for the census and voter registration, social media management, referral support during COVID, youth advocacy and leadership development, youth financial literacy, entrepreneurship training, how to communicate and empower youth, promotion of African culture and heritage, supporting project grant managers in the community, to name a few. When we first started managing the grants projects, so a lot of people ask how are the vendors or people selected to receive grant funding. So when we first started, we just took the outreach specialists that were already involved with the coalition and their advice on who to select. After we had experience through the project, we got to see performance, right? Who showed up, who was available. We learned through that. That's where all of our grant project managers, like Brother Charles over here, was instrumental in getting one of the grants done early. And so we then start looking at performance and other factors, right? As well as sharing it across the region and across the continent. So I just want to answer that question. And some of it, and some of the vendors, like some that you see, are based off of recommendations. Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Working with this team sometimes amazes me. You've heard from our sister Martha. Such a great resource that we have in our community. She doesn't sleep, literally. If the most she can sleep in a night, maybe 2-3 hours. So, and what the board saw in her, in her ability, we took advantage of it, and we're still working, making sure that we maximize the advantage that we got from such a great giver. Hands, a round of applause to our sister. She works so tirelessly in every committee, she's in every meeting, making sure that every vendor needs are met and the community needs are met. What a great resource we have in our community. And also, I'm so much humbled to stand before you as the first one to share this news to you. It is a humbling experience because as a child, it has always been my dream where we have equity and governance as the hallmark of any African relationships or African institutions. And I want to say thank you so much to my board members that have worked tirelessly. Sometimes we don't see us saying so much things in the WhatsApp groups, but behind the scenes we are constantly working. And sometimes hardly we can have a board meeting that lasts minimum is 2 hours. And sometimes like now we can have it every other day, or sometimes we can have it twice a week. And sometimes we have it every 2 weeks, depending on the need, what is there. But I'm so much humbled having these leaders. They are busy in their businesses. Our president is a developer. He's managing a lot of real estate. Our vice president, Eddie, is a director with Amazon. Hey, and by the way, we are looking for a job. You need to, you saw what I mean? That is economic empowerment, right? Yeah, let's go. He's managing over 400 employees.
Sign-on bonuses.
And he also gives out sign-on bonuses. But when you look at him, he's very skinny. He told me a story. I have to go off the script. That when he went, he started the job and he showed up and he was talking to his staff members, and they underrated him so much. And one of the guys was complaining to, was giving him directions because he thought oh, it's another boy who's come to work here in the line, in the production line, right? But when she said, oh yeah, we're expecting, no, I am the director. She almost broke down, you know what I mean? So, never underestimate somebody by just a look. We have our sister, Tetiwe, she's the queen in our board. She gives solutions. She's the mother we listen to. More especially me and the mother, we are the best friends and the worst enemies. We fight. Because she's giving me the expenses, I'm like, no, I need to understand how those are done, and it can be frustrating. But she also, we have our best interest for the organization. We are so much humbled to serve our African community. We do it because we love our African community. We serve and dedicate all the hours, endless times away from our families. It is not because we're just there to show off. We genuinely, from the bottom of our heart, we want to create a legacy for the next generation and the next generation. Now, I'm going to share about the financial report. Before we go there, I want to give absolute credit to the founders, to the pioneers of this organization. Either there were 5 or 6 of them, they sat in a meeting and they said, how can we work together? How can we come together? And I remember in 2018, I think 2018 or 2019, when I attended the first meeting, I brought in all my Kenyan community leaders. Then I was serving as the chairman of Rocking North. I was telling Claire, my wife, last night, hey, can you give me that picture of memory? And I saw everybody radiating and happy. But we saw something in us. And then when my term ended, I joined the coalition, they reached out. And so I want to say thank you. You laid the foundation. You worked so hard. The vision, and this board is carrying on. And yet, the board that is going to come next year, because there are elections, we are praying that they can carry on where we have left, because every board moves us from one point to the other, to the next, to the next. Yes, there will be some disagreements on operations. That is normal. That is democracy, right? But the overarching goal, have we moved our community to the next level? You lay the foundation, we are implementing those foundations. And that is why we have this first financial report to share with you. One of the things that this board has been very successful, and I say we are one, is that over my experience as an accountant, I have worked with United Way of America in Wall Street. And while I was working there, I managed a lot of non-profit funding. And I saw how non-profit money moves within the communities. And I was very instrumental on signing off all those funds and going out or allocating the expenses for them and managing the return on the investment. That inspired me. Like, I was like, wow. If Bill Gates can give millions and billions to the foundation and other institutions, how can we tap? We can only tap when we have the 501c3. So this is the trajectory where we're going. So one of the things that when I came on board as the treasurer, I said I am so much into controls and financial policies. So what we wanted to look at first, how can we secure an accounting system? So we were able and negotiated with the blessing of the board members, they voted in, that we can have Oracle NetSuite Social Impact. They gave us that grant every year. We're getting it for free. That is worth $5,000. And in the beginning, I had to sit in the training to make sure that all the systems are working well. And they offered us a training for 2 months. Every week, I am sitting with them so that I can learn the system, because each accounting system is different. So that is the other achievement that this board has come. Now, I want one of the things that this is the slide of that. So you can see I can write, pull, and reports when you're logged in. Our goal is even also to manage the grant systems within the accounting board and many other programs that we can have when we will have regular employees, because right now we have contract employees. How do we pay all those expenses? This is the system will be able to help us. So I am praying that somebody is going to carry on as the treasurer and somebody who is going to carry on as the accountant for this. They already have a foundation to move on. Now, I come to the point I am giving you the report. This is the money that we have received from November 2019 to October 2021. All for your information, Mother called me last night and said you've been awarded another grant. How much, Mother, you can declare that?
I think there might be a fiscal sponsor, so they would be $3,600.
About that $600.
$3,600.
Yeah, so there is money still doing what? Trickling in. So this is how, when we receive the money, we get a grant. Because we don't have the 501c3 that we're working with our legal expert, we are paying a fee for the last period. Now we have already paid out $25,330. That is money that we could have kept, or we will keep once we have what? Our 501c3. That is an expense that we shouldn't do what? Pay for. You look at the total money we have received is $447,000 in grant, and these grants were going to specific. Every grant goes, it has, when a grant gives you the money, they give you direction how to spend it. It is under the field that we have the capacity to spend it how we choose it, so that, and that is the one we use for our operations. Now we have the Seattle Foundation Capacity Building Grant. We received 100,000, and that has helped us to hire the staff. That has also helped us even to run for these events. That has also helped us to pay for these events we are having today. We have food over there. We have the nice room we are using, and anytime that we are going out to have meetings, those are the monies that we are using. Now, the other thing you can see in my distribution, it says, this is the a grant gross, the fiscal sponsor, and the net grant, and then we show the total expenses that we have incurred, and then to the end, we have undistributed funds, meaning that money either they are still in the process of paying out because we've just received it, or we have paid out and we have a net income that is retained for capacity building. Averagely, we look about 3 to 5% of every grant to maintain as a capacity building within the organization. Now, you look at it, so those are the expenses we have gone so far is 284,000. And now, undistributed funds and net income is $137,803.61. That is our net income from that period of time up to this month. Now, out of that money, some of our money is sitting still with our fiscal sponsors because we have not received it, or the grant went through, we are just still waiting for the funds to the account, and then we receive it. So these are the money that is sitting with our, and you can see all the fiscal sponsors we use. So the money that is remaining with us right now is with Key Tech Lab organization with the last 2 grants that went directly to them. So we are waiting for the funds. And then the Seattle Business Hub, which was the capacity building, we still have $236 remaining from Municipal costs. So at hand right now, the funds we should have, although their expenses were incurred this month and not done all the reconciliations, we should have 136 in my accounting system. That is 124,967.61. And that now takes me to our balance sheet. So you can see I have the assets we only have at the moment is the cash in the bank. All the computers, all those things, we dispense them because when we look at financial positions, we find those are things that we can write up expenses because we don't have any other assets as an organization. And so far, and then account receivable, the money we talked about, which you can see down here, 13,836, that is over 14,236, that is over there. And then we have expenses that we are yet to pay out for the contracts that we have already incurred for the year that we have not paid out because the services have not been fully delivered. We owe them $6,650. So this is our net worth as an organization. So I want to say thank you. We have come this far. How much more if we can continue working together and utilize the resources? My belief is that we always have to find the best in each and every one of us. Find the best in the brother sitting next to you. Find the best in the sister sitting next to you. Because together, when we find the best in ourselves, we are able to do more. So for this very time, I'm so sorry. I was one of the people who was telling, hey, can you sit in that stand in the right position? So I am very sorry for the people that are online. I apologize for that. Now, our next time, what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a moment of questions and answers. If you have any questions, and this is the guideline for us so that we can be able to answer the questions. Please, you are allowed. This is a member organization, you are members. So you are allowed to have questions. The people that are online, please type your questions online. And thank you. I want to give a big shout out to our sister Ketiwe, who is our one of the board members that is safe. She's gonna stay home so that she can manage online. So we're gonna take questions from you. So we're gonna be able to answer your questions.
Eddie, can you go over the guidelines, please?
Yeah,
Someone needs to read it.
okay.
So they're just ready, right? Yeah, so the Q&A will be about 20 minutes, and we will reserve 10 minutes of questions, so keep it to 1 minute max for those questions, and that is one question each person. We'll take all the questions, we'll do this the African way, you know. Have you seen African presidents when they're doing a conference? Press conference? It's strange. They ask for the questions, you know, and then they answer 5 questions, and they ask 5 more questions. And actually, I like it because here we do different in America, right? You ask questions, we answer it, and then we go back and forth. We're not gonna do that. So we're gonna take all the questions, and then the board will answer those questions. If they're same question, same person, different people, same question, we just give the same answer because it makes sense in the interest of time. And the stakeholders here, we have different stakeholders. We have organization members, and we have individual members, and we have founders, co-founders of the organization. We have previous administration people or board members. So we want kind of like the whole spectrum, with everybody to be able to ask questions, but not just one type of stakeholder. So everybody should be able to ask questions. And we can start taking questions right now, right? Ready? All right. Just raise your hand if you have a question, and then we will write that down.
There's some questions online.
Oh, there's some question online already? All right. Are you able to read it out, please?
I'm not on this Zoom.
Oh, yeah, on Zoom.
I can't.
You want me to check the record you did?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Teamwork, it's a dream work.
Yes, this is what working together looks like. Success, this is what success looks like, all of you, all of us. So we have, how many questions we got online right now? And see if there are anything in common. So we can answer the question. So just give us a moment, we're online with everyone.
We have 3 online.
Okay, let's take the first question online. You wanna?
Just read the questions.
Yeah. The first question is, what's the financial focus? What's the financial focus goal for 2022? This comes from Dr. Nixon. So the question is, what's the financial forecast or goal for 2022? Second question comes from Sister Martha. Are the paid position being advertised and background checked as required by law? I will repeat the question. Are the paid positions being advertised and background checked as required by law? So those are the 2 questions that are wrong. There's only 2 questions from online. Any more questions from the audience here? I think, Dan, you were so good at this. People don't have questions.
Somebody's got a question.
Yeah.
All right, Brother Abdul.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, can you bring the, what do you call it? Spreadsheet there? Okay, right there. So you have said that fiscal responsibility. So first of all, what are these and how do you get these people? And so that means also every funds you get, you go through them and then they do what and what. Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah, so the question from Brother Bill from Zakusa organization is, so we talked about the fiscal sponsorship.
Yes.
What does that mean? Like, with the money, where does it go? Like fiscal sponsorship. So can you explain more on that? All right, absolutely. So we have 3 questions. Any more questions, please? Yeah, we have Wazy from MSA, Malawi Seattle Association, one of our organization.
Hi, so my question is, the Washington Coalition, is representing all the African organizations, which Malawi Seattle Section is one of it. How do you make sure that we have a voice in those decisions? Because you are representing us organizations. So we want to make sure the Malawi Seattle Association voice is in there. Somebody is speaking for us, representing us. How do you make sure we have that?
The question from MSA is, MSA being a member, just like other members, how do we ensure that their voice is represented in the organization? How do we make sure that the organizations that we represent have the voice in the organization? That was question number 4. We'll take more questions, guys, if you have any more questions. Could be anything. No, any question is silly. In the back, my sister over there.
Hi, my name is Adam Tiga. I am new here, but I'm asking,
Welcome.
all your presentation is going on. What do you do with youths, and how do you empower the youth, bringing them culturally to understand what's going on? And I'm so excited that I was invited because I work with youths, and that's the question I have. And they want to be part of here too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm from the Gambia.
Yes. We're excited about that. We know.
We got West over here.
Oh yeah, we need to change that. We need to make.
Mix it up.
The question from the Gambian sister from Gambia was, what do we do with the youth? Like, how do we get the youth involved, right? Yeah. So how do we get the youth involved in the WSCacl organization? We have 5 questions so far. Let me see if there's more online. We do. This is a long one. All right. English is my third language. Reading is even worse. This is from Sister Elena. Thanks for everyone for all you do. 1, can you share some achievements or projects impacted straight to the community? I'm sure are many, but just 1. 2nd, what have you learned as you do and don't as board members to move our organization forward? Keep up the good work. So there are 2 questions there from Sister Elena. We'll take both since we don't have too many questions. So the first one was, can you share some achievements or project impacted straight to the community? And the second one was, what have we learned as board members to move the organization forward? Powerful questions. All right, I think we can start answering those questions. I'm going to be rephrasing those questions so board members, whenever you. Okay.
Will we take that first
All
one?
right.
Let me take this response. Yeah, because that's part of financing.
All right, go ahead.
And thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to answer 3 questions on the fiscal sponsor, and you had a question on the spreadsheet about, I think that is 1, and what is our next goal for next year, as was asked by Dr. Nixon. What is our plan for next year? 1, organizationally, for us to receive funding, we apply for the grant, and because we do not have the 501c3, that means the tax credit break from the federal level. So for us to run those programs, because when we get the money, let's say, from any of these funders, they want to write off those tax expenses. So for that, you have to have a 501c so that they can pass on that expense to you. In most cases, we realize that many our community level organizations, because of the structure and the complexity, or from the beginning on site, we don't have the 501c3. It's a process. So meanwhile, in that very place, so then we have a mediator, I can call a mediator, who is our fiscal sponsor, who is going to make sure that those funds have met the guideline of the sponsor or the grant. So for that time, so we give them average is about 10% that they have to keep, because we only use them so that when they are doing their tax, their IRS reporting, they can be able to report for that. So we pay them what? 10% of that grant. Sometimes you can see that we spend more than 10%. That is what they demanded. So there are times we don't have what? We don't have a choice. The purpose of that is so that we are meeting we are meeting the guidelines, the federal guidelines. Remember, the federal is guiding us, the state level and the community level. Now, that is one of the reasons as to why when the organization started, the articles of incorporation and the bylaws were not meeting the guidelines for us to have the 501c3. And that is why you remember the beginning of the year, this board was so much focused to make sure that we have the bylaws, the articles of incorporation amended, and you voted on it so that it can give us the ability to file for the 501c3 status. So that is the reason as to why. Did I answer your question?
I think I have a follow-up question.
I will give you just a second, please.
Okay, just a second. So if you do use this 513C for that, so and this money goes to the community, and now some communities do have this.
No, okay, awesome.
So how can you then perhaps use that community 513 to accommodate this?
Yes. So now a good example, WSCacl Tech is one of our organization, board coalition organization members. Two, the Seattle Business Foundation is one of our organizational members. So we have used them as our fiscal sponsor because already they have one. So it is like a marriage that we have. Meanwhile, we are getting this. And there are many other organizations that don't have that. So when all this money is flowing either according to the requirement of the funder, so we are able to meet that requirement by having the 501c3. Now, if I understood your question, so does the next organizations where we send the money to, let's say we are sending the money to Malawi, and they are running an event or the youth empowerment or something, but we have written a grant and we are the grantor and we are overseeing the operations. Do they really need to have the 501c? Yes and no, depending. So if it is no, we still can do what? Can go ahead and run the expenses because they're going to report the expenses to the ED when we are reporting back. So because all this money, what it does, it goes either to the organizations or to whatever, which Mother has given the details. Now, the next question I wanted to answer is, I hope I'm not confusing you guys. Yeah. Now, the next thing we do is, what is our goal for next year? When we were sitting as the board, we discussed ourselves, we looked at our abilities, we looked at our time constraint, and we looked at our strengths that we have with Mother. One of the goals we looked at we are anticipating at least to raise 1 million. And she has an ambitious dream than that. And we appreciate that ambitious dream, but also we needed to be more conservative. Yes, there's a budget that is planning for the next year. Can we be able to attain that? Yes, if we all continue working together. So thank you so much, and Eddie, I'm going to give you back. And if my brother has more questions, I want mine to sit with him and discuss and have more understanding.
Thank you, Dan. So Dan answered 2 questions, the fiscal focus and the sponsorship. Any of the members or even the ED wanna tackle another question here? We have hiring practices, how we ensure the organizations are sitting on the table. Okay, the hiring practices. Brother Henry, when I said hiring practices, how we hire the people who are getting paid in the organizations.
Yes, so as with any organization, this is a business. Don't forget, this is a business. Nonprofit, some nonprofits make more money than profit businesses. But the process that we go through, just like any other business or relationship that you want to get into, we have a screening process and there's a resume process. And some resume processes are based upon experience. So if we've had an experience with you and we're working with you and you're already doing the work, why would we hire somebody else to come in and start all over without a proven track record? So that's where we begin as a board, as your board, as our board, making the decisions to bring on, to build our capacity. And starting with our executive director, Ms. Martha Lucas, and then we have an intern, Patricia, and then we're looking to add even more positions. And we also have a project manager with Charles. Can you say Charles' last name? Samango. I'm gonna get there. And I've enjoyed my trips to Africa. I've been to the Gambia. I've been to Sierra Leone. I've been to Senegal, Guinea, a few others. That's one of the reasons I'm so excited, because I think we as a people don't know it's not Africa that makes us who we are. It's us that makes Africa what it is. We're a global people. So we've been all over the world before all these other people start wanting us to use their languages and their terminologies and their names. Our civilizations, well, I won't get into the history lessons, but we will at some point. We can bring our experts up for that. I am also a social engineer. That's one of my favorite subjects. And we have so many gifted people in our community that we need to draw on them and reward them and utilize them. We all have some talents. We're here for a purpose. But to get back to that, I don't think anybody could challenge with legitimacy our decision-making on our first 2 hires. It should have been a no-brainer. I know there's people that want to contest almost everything, and that's all right. That's your human right to disagree or have a difference of opinion. But as your board and as a sane and what we call an engineering competent decision, if somebody is doing a good job, they're doing the work, they have an understanding, they have a track record, well, they're going to the top of my list. I don't care if it's a 10-year-old child prodigy or a 90-year-old person of great wisdom. It's a good decision. I do want to say this too. Let's not get hung up into these beginning stages. Sometimes I'm gonna work on my stand-up comedy stuff right now. Don't get offended, don't get offended. How many Black people does it take to manage $100 billion? Let's just say more than one. So I hope that answers the question, and we're trying to be as fair as possible, but we do have to be expeditious with our decisions too. Sometimes these grants are coming at us faster than we can respond. A lot of these grants are relationships. It's not always about your titles, et cetera, but if you have relationships, I'm not going to toot horns and all that kind of stuff, but when you have relationships, you can get things done. I think brother, even Muhammad, Abdul can attest to that. And someone asked a question about some of our successes, I think it was, achievements. Yeah. Once again, relationships are everything. Brother Abdul, as well as some other young people within the coalition in our community, they came to work for us on a project. At a project that is co-sponsored by Africa Town. Some of those Asian folks, and Martha showed on that. I'm just throwing stuff at you, and I know you might not understand it. That's why sometimes I hate that we're in this COVID pandemic, because it hurts the way we normally communicate. Brother Murray Edwards from St. Louis, who's my St. Louis partner here, he started St. Louis. Africatown, St. Louis. We're working on Africatown, Maryland. These are some of the achievements that are coming out of this group. And we're not just doing this to be putting names out there. We are going to change. We're changing together, not us. This is what we're doing together. We're reunifying our people. All right? And getting resources to all of us everywhere. I personally get tired of hearing all these coups that are going on, these uprisings, how these European nations are putting different people in power, taking them out. Like I said, at some point we got to be so intellectually strong that nothing can take us down. So that's one of my goals.
I'll have our AD answer the question: how do we ensure that the organizations that we work for are sitting on the table? And also, the second question that you may have a good answer is, share with us one project that directly impacted the community.
Thank you, Eddie. So I'm going to start with the one project, and I think that there is no better person to actually talk about that than the person who is basically the project manager, Pastor Sephora. Can you step up here and talk about African Youth Drug Prevention Program and those youth that are now going to college, our babies? I think you know better than anyone what those kids have done, how they came in, some of them not talking, very shy, right? I think Monica's victory. And now if you could talk about what they're doing.
The next.
Finance.
Thank you. I didn't expect Martha to call me. Yeah, my name is. Oh,
Right.
oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Pastor Zipporah Wainaina. I'm from Kenya. And first of all, thank you to those who know my story. I was sick with COVID-19 for 40 days in ICU, and you guys prayed me out of it. I'm so happy to be alive today. Thank you. Yeah, I relocated to Washington in 2017, and immediately I learned about the coalition, and I brought myself. I said, what are you doing about the youth? Because I'm a teacher by profession for over 25 years, so I've worked with kids all my life. And I found Martha, I found a few other people, and they welcomed me. And we decided to do whatever we can to bring our kids on board. So 2019, we were invited by the King County to do a project and a survey on the effect of marijuana, vaping, alcohol, tobacco, advertising on our teens. And we just began by giving our services. It wasn't about the money, it wasn't about.
We didn't have money.
We didn't even have money. So I had about 5 Kenyan kids. My sisters from Ethiopia had about another 5 or so. But by the time we finished, only 5 were able to remain, right? I had 2 Kenyans and 3 Ethiopians, and we used to go out and survey and see how it's impacting their lives. And then we had to do our presentation to the King County. I think we were 7 groups that were given that work. And we ended up being the best. We used to sit Wednesdays, Saturdays, get the kids 7 p.m. in the evening and teach them how to present. Some of them were so shy, didn't want to talk in public. But by the time we were finishing, they all knew what they wanted to be in future and they were ready to move on. And so, as Martha said and presented here, I think we were given a grant of 10K after that. And we were able to do phase 2 of the project. The kids were able to train other kids. Now we have about 10 of them. Thank you very much. I want to take this chance to ask you to bring your children. We are there, we are willing to volunteer and do whatever we can, but we need parental support. If we don't have the parent, don't bring the kid, right? Yeah, bring the kid and bring the parent. So thank you very much, and we are there, we will continue. Actually, an organization was born, the African Youth Drug Prevention Program. For it becoming a great arm of the coalition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martha.
And from that, we have, they've been accepted to college, the 2 that are seniors. One of the students, as Pastor Zipporah mentioned, was a very shy person. She actually has decided she wants to be a representative, so we call her representative inside. So they have become advocates. They have trained to be, they're even better than adults in some ways when they do their speaking. And they have been outreached. They've been paid for what they can do. And they are now, we've turned some of them from coming late African time to on time or early, because they want to support. So that comes from not just understanding their coach will get on them, but all those adult leaders, a big round of support for pastor support, all of them coming for meeting after meeting. They were compensated very little for the amount of hundreds of hours they put in. So when people come to me and say, what are you doing with the money? How have you supported the community? Those kids are a testament to the work that comes when you care and you are gonna be there whether there's money or there's no money. So talk to me when you're doing that and then we can, okay? And then the last thing was, yes. So the best representation of how we connect the organizations is through the committee work, which I know you sit on many of them. And so that's where we're actually, the color of the shirts and the products are coming from either when it's a youth product, it comes from the youth. When it comes for adult products, it's coming from the adults. So that's where we're getting a lot of that feedback. The whole intent of the coalition was to actually be run primarily from the committees, because the committees have you as community leaders, right? We're not directly in the community. So we're now at that point, to be quite honest, where we weren't there a few years ago, that we have now been able to now shift. And, Sister Nasari and Wazy and Debbie and Sister Claire, all of you who are now like stepping into grant writing and doing that part, that's for that transfer of knowledge to be given to you guys. And we're getting that feedback from you, what you guys want directly, okay?
Thank you. And I think that question, the youth, has been kind of answered through that whole process. Yes. So we do have the coalition as an umbrella has organizations. We have about 26 organizations, community organizations. And to just go back a little bit, the purpose of this coalition, how it was created by the founders, they realized that as Africans here in Seattle, Washington State, we have some communities from Africa, like Ethiopian community, Somalian community, which they're big and they have bigger organizations that represent them here in this community. But then you have some countries like Zimbabwe, Zambia, Guinea, that are very small and they're not represented. And to create this coalition so that those organizations can actually sit on the table as well. So we have the coalition. Within the coalition, we have committees. We have 5 committees: the youth, voter registration, which, by the way, I'm breaking the news. We're going to change the word voter registration to civic engagement. That's part of the change that we're bringing to the board. So we have civic engagement, economic empowerment, cultural heritage, family, and there's one more. So all those committees, they meet weekly or bi-weekly. So when you join the coalition, you will be directed, you'll be offered to join one of the committees that you like, so like the youth, and then you can bring the youth in your community into the organization so we can get more funding, we can have more activities like Pastor Zipporah was testifying to. At this point, the board is the one that's kind of bringing the money in through our grant writing, through our ED and project managers like Charles Mango. But it shouldn't work like that. We want the community, the committees themselves, we need to teach them how to do that. Like cultural heritage should be able to get funding. There's so much money for cultural heritage out there. They should be able to get funding to bring to the community so the money can trickle down to the people in the community. One good example that I thought Martha was going to mention, how the money impact the community the past 2 years I've volunteered with this organization, was last year we received 100,000 grant from Seattle Foundation. 10% of that went to the sponsor, and then the rest of it, I'm talking about the rest of the money, went to the community. So about 13 organizations received part of that money directly, no strings attached. They just had to do the work in terms of like dispersing that money to the people. So that money impacted the community directly. The last question he needed to answer was, what have you learned as board members? What have you learned? Well, I've lost my hair. I used to have full hair. It was beautiful. It's gone. No, what have I learned? I've learned a few things. One thing I was speaking with Dan, Henry, Martha, and Ketiwe the other day was, I feel like us as board, we've moved the needle, we've done a lot of work, but there's part of that that I feel like we have not done very well, which I feel like I've learned. Maybe it's COVID. We haven't done a good job of outreach as a board. I feel like the previous board and the founders were so good at outreach in their ways. They were doing it traditional way. They would pick up a phone and they'll call you. How you doing today? How's your family doing? How's your community doing? I think this board has not done much of that. We've worked, but we were talking about it, and Henry was like, wow, we probably need to do this the next 4 months. I think it's about 4 months, our term is going to end. We're going to bring in a new board. So we're thinking about that, doing an outreach, maybe even traveling to the community, like Zakusa, go see them, sit in their meeting. But our ED, to her credit, she's gone to so many events in these communities, like Malawi had an independence party at the Lake Sammamish. I missed it, but she was there, and some members were there. So that's part of the outreach, but I think we can do more. I've also learned, maybe you can add to this, to stand up for the truth and be honest with yourself. What are you fighting for? What's your purpose? If you don't have a purpose, it's going to be hard for you to work to do this job. But have a purpose. Maybe is the next generation, you want to set them up. Maybe you want a community center to be built. Maybe you want this organization to expand, to reach an area that beyond what we're doing right now. So once you have that purpose, it's going to help you do the job that you're doing. That's all I have. Any addition, board members, to any of these questions?
Thank you. What I have learned from this team, as board members also to add on that, I have gained wisdom, I have gained connections, I've gotten to know more people. As an individual, as Daniel, there is so much that I've learned sitting in this board. The other thing that I've learned is how do we look on macroeconomic issues. I'm more passionate on the economic level. What can we do for our community? I have learned that through our brother, there is a lot of resources through our president that we have not tapped. The other thing that I've learned out is like looking at the best of each person, not looking at their weaknesses, finding their strength and use their strength. Because you cannot change my weaknesses because my wife has to deal with it anyway. Right? And those are the things. Now, there's a question that was online, and thank you, Sister Ketiwe, for bringing it up. Yeah. So there's a question that came up, especially on governance. I want to assure our community, any decision the board makes when we sit down, we look at the facts of the law and facts of the constitution and the bylaws and what is the general law. We look at that. If we are not clear on that issue, we have a legal representative. Our lawyer was done so much in the community in legal issues. Connie, she's our go-to. So anytime we have a legal question that we're not very sure, we book an appointment with her and we continue from there. So do not worry when we're making these decisions because they are within the legal framework. Thank you so much, and I think for now we can take a break.
Let's be cognizant. I think Wole, what do you need to go?
Oh, no.
You're okay.
Yeah. So then we can move to the next. Yeah, let's go for a break and get to know. Make sure that you've known at least 3, 4, 5 people before you leave this. And when we're having the food.
Yeah, and don't forget the t-shirts from over there for 25. The folks.
Yay! Hey! The t-shirts are over there. Hey, make sure you take photos. You see, I want the African thing, right? Make more, and take more. Yes. Yeah.
Both of you. I suggest you
People online, I want to say thank you so much for what you're doing and your patience. We really appreciate and we want to say thank you for the gift of sorting out your thoughts out and being patient.
All right, so we are getting back. Martha, we're getting back. I know we're supposed to end this at 3 p.m. We started a little bit late. We had some technical difficulties, but we have a few things to go over. We'll go quickly. I know we say that we're gonna have Zimbabwe community present their profile. The Zimbabwe, they have a function going on, but because our time is off, they wanted to do it live on Zoom. So they're not gonna be able to do that right now, but we'll do it next time. Now we're gonna go to, I spoke about committees that we have in our coalition. We're gonna do committees updates, it'll be quick. Let's start with the joint committee.
You know, we wanted to, the board wants to recognize them. And specifically for the last leadership retreat, Peter, who, Peter K, Peter K is what we call him, in Cultural Heritage, he brought in the most guests, and so we have a gift for him as well. And, you know, an honorary community leader t-shirt, because he's always the first one to help out and to support. And so we want to thank you so much, Peter, for everything you do. And also at the same time, Patricia, our admin intern, it was her birthday, and yes, bosses can forget stuff, so we wanted to also give you a gift, and so we'll hand that out at the end, but I just wanted to let all the committee leaders know that in honor of what they've done, we actually got t-shirts for all of you, because you guys put in so much hours and so much work. But I'm gonna start off with Lacey with the update for joint talk.
Thank you for having us. My name is Wesley, and I am coming from the WSCacl Association. I'm the vice president. But I will be presenting about the joint committee project that we have. Just a little bit background. Oh, like this? Thank you. Okay, a little bit background of, one more. Okay, so should I start over? No? Okay. All right, move on. All right, so a little bit background. I have been working in healthcare. I've been a nurse for over 25 years, mainly in the oncology, that's cancer patients. And for the past 5 years, I've been working with clinical research in cancer patients. So my life has been pretty much about healthcare. That's my passion. And especially this moving from Malawi coming here, it is my passion that, you know, as African immigrants or just as immigrants, you know, we have access to good healthcare. So for the project that we're having, it's a youth project. It's a 3-month commitment, and it's youth between the ages of 11 to 17, and the requirement they have to be of African descent. And it's a 3-month commitment. It's going to be on Zoom. And just to read about it's the youth to discuss their back to school transition challenges and to foster development of self-confidence. And you know, we've all been 11 to 17-year-old, and we know how, you know, life affects us, and especially with the COVID. And we've been honored that Dennis Dubai will be the host, and he's an international renewed motivation speaker, entertainer, and will be leading the Zoom sessions. Let me see the other thing. I think that's pretty much about it. It's just a 3 months, and we're hoping that the youth will collaborate with you on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. My sister from Gambia, did you hear that?
That's what I said. I said, that's what I live for.
All right, next, let's hear from Cultural Heritage. Cultural Heritage has been super busy this year. We see your work everywhere. Very culturally heritage.
All right.
All right. Hello, my name is Nasawi Consolata. I am the lead on the Culture and Heritage Committee. This past, COVID got our dates all mixed up. I almost said this past year. But during the summertime, we were super busy. We were able to be out at the festivals, getting the word out about the coalition. So we signed a lot of people up during the festival season. We were there for Umoja Festival, for Juneteenth event, and one other event, I forget, I apologize. But yeah, so we've been out in the community, doing the work, getting us, eyes on the coalition and the culture to just keep it alive, because I know we all always come from different parts of Africa. We come here, we have to adapt to everything. But the Culture and Heritage Committee is there to make sure that we keep our culture, right? We keep all our traditions and all those amazing things that make us who we are, and we're able to show up in America as unapologetic. What else? We have coming up, we're working on some grant stuff. Hopefully we will get the grant to have something during the holiday season. So look out for that information to come out pretty soon. I hope we'll be able to get all the communities to get involved and be involved, and just the whole point is, as a coalition, is so all of us are bringing our traditions, our cultures, because we know most may vary. We're not all, doing the same thing. So it'll be great for the different communities to take part and teach us, and we're all there to learn. So holiday event will designed to bring all of us together in one place, healthy and with our mask on. We also have, towards the end of the year, some of the youth will take part in some African arts. I'll be teaching a class on that. I'm not sure for how long, but they'll be learning some super basic arts and crafts stuff, like maybe putting like fabric or notebooks or some sort of like art related project. Yeah. Yes, that's part of it, right? The culture and heritage class? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Rita, sorry. So we're actually working with, we're in negotiations with one other partner, as well as we're talking to Africans on the east side to bring, to bring actually cultural heritage classes, which the committee members of cultural heritage have all volunteered to actually take a couple weeks and to teach a simple recipe to the youth. The same youth that are going to be involved in the youth empowerment with Dubai Dennis. And so we have so far we have about 20 something, 25, I think, kids signed up. So they're gonna basically go through the whole, the different classes, the different cultures. So with all the different cultures represented on that committee, They're gonna teach them either a simple recipe, some dancing and their customs, as well as, talk about the history. And we're also gonna cover African and African American relations at the beginning, as well as the Africa the media does not show you. So all our kids can see that as well. So there's gonna be a lot of celebration. We're working with African American Academy, to bring in the structure of that. But it's gonna be actually the community leaders leading those weeks. And we're also gonna work with Africans on East Side, to bring that program to you guys, okay? So that's gonna be the winner.
Thank you, guys. No Thanksgiving? You guys are not doing anything Thanksgiving? I thought that was cultural heritage. The next one is the economic empowerment. Economic empowerment brings a lot of energy to the coalition and the community. Charles, you ready for economic empowerment? Are you gonna make us rich?
No. Make yourself. Thank you, Eddie. Please raise your hand if you know how much your monthly bills come out to.
Oh, wow.
Do you know how much you fork out to pay for rent, your water, your everything? An idea? Okay, good. So it's most of us. So for the other half, I'll get back to you later. Economic empowerment is simply about helping you to find a way to be able to have all those bills paid every month without you having to do anything. Who want that?
Amen.
1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, Peter. Okay. Why are you not in the committee?
There you go. Let's say it right there.
I know. Anyway, my name is Charles Simango. I'm from Malawi. I'm married to Faith right there. And we have 2 big boys. The last one is getting out next year. So yeah, we are thinking about economic empowerment because we are an empty nest pretty soon. I'm a member of the Economic Empowerment Committee, and I'm also a project manager on one of the coalition's project, which is to do with COVID outreach. Other than that, professionally, I am a journalist. I've been in the newsroom for the past 10 years, for my first 10 years. The other 15 years or so until I grayed out were spent in development communications, working with development agencies like UN, the USAID, and the others. And when I came stateside, that's what I continued doing. I help nonprofits to get started, register for your 501c, and get your first 25, 50,000, and 100,000 grants. That's what I'm doing. And I continue also to volunteer on the coalition to help with grant writing as well. Now, back to our bills. The economic empowerment is there basically to take us beyond what we all strive to do every day, which is putting a roof over our heads, putting food on our table, and putting clothes on our back. Because by the end of the day, we all know that if that's all you can do, you're there as a country. But for you to leave, you need to get to a point whereby if you go to work and you get your paycheck after 2 weeks, it means for you to get another paycheck, you need to go to work again. And you need to be doing that all the time. That's not empowerment. That's just labor or something. I'm trying to avoid the word slavery, because basically that's what it is. It's paid slavery. And in the committee, what we're trying to do is to come up with a way of teaching our people, we, people of color, to do what the others are doing. Especially white people, Caucasians, and Indians are very good about it, and the others. But what we are trying to do is to take us beyond that, so that we get to a situation whereby we are creating generational wealth, which means even if something happens to us, our kids are going to be comfortable and their kids are going to be comfortable. And we cannot do that unless we learn the ropes. How do the Caucasians do it? How do the Indians do it? First, they do it by doing what we are not very good at, which is working together. Let's stop the fight. I joined the Economic Empowerment Committee January last year, and the past year I've already found 10 people that I know can help me become 10 times what I am. Talking about Henry here, I don't want to go there, but they're into construction. If that's what you want to do, I'll teach you how to do that. Got Brother Kennedy, where are you? Oh, right there. So Brother Kennedy, one of our own, he's got his own realty, and he has built his own offices, double-story offices, but he has helped hundreds of us elsewhere to get their first house, to get their second house, to even get their third house. Just knowing that person and being able to call them, that's wealth. Because they'll take you to places you've never been before. I know people that are connected. Peter K over here, he doesn't say much, but he shows up everywhere we go. But when you see the people that he works with, the network that he works with, he's got thousands of people under his union in the ride-sharing community. That's wealth. That's connection. So within our community, the committee, what we thought about, what we set out to do is to make sure that these dots, the individual silos that we have, we bring them together and we avail them to the community so that we can grow together. So we have programs that we are pursuing. The first one is the one that I talked about, which is what? Economic empowerment. But how? Real estate. So in real estate, we are looking at two programs. The first program is where we are trying to help our own people to get their first house. Every time you fork out $1,850 to pay rent, you are building someone else's asset. But every time you fork out the same amount, it's the same amount. The same amount, what you are doing is you are making sure that that is your money. The 1.8 that you paid this month to your mortgage, and next month to your mortgage, after next year you can go back and take it back and spend it. But if it's rent, you're not going to get it, it's gone. So we are trying to get people move out of rentals, get your first home. The second investment in terms of real estate that we are looking at is now real estate as investment, whereby now we are having doors, one door, two doors. By doors I mean houses, which you are now renting out. When you get to that stage, now you can stay home, you can miss work, that paycheck will come. And that is what we are focused on. But thirdly, for us to get to that stage, we need to understand how this system works. How does the system work here? Where I came from in Malawi, the bank manager look at your cash flow. Or you are getting paid so much, or you are generating so much from your business. Therefore, you can borrow so much. When I came back here, it took me 3 years to realize that I'm not interested in that. They're interested in something, a stupid animal called credit. It has nothing to do with how much you have. Whether you put $1,000, $100,000 in boxes in your house, that's just yours. They'll still look at that figure. Does it start with a 6? Oh, you're fine. Or does it start with a 7? And how is it affected? So financial literacy is one of our key pillars, and Brother Daniel here is a very, very formidable force when it comes to teaching people about financial literacy. But then thirdly, we are looking at growing, rather starting with building and growing our own businesses. Because that is what grows communities. We need to have our own bank. If people will be looking at me, yeah, he's a dreamer. Yes. That's what Seattle credit union is. It's a bank. But what is it? It's a grouping of a community. How many people do we have in our community? We have 26 organizations. When we look at the numbers, we are 86,000 people. Why are we banking with different people when we can be banking with ourselves and lending money to ourselves? So when it comes to things like those, now we have people like Henry and my brother here. They've been there. They've dealt with $100 million banks as credit unions. Why are we not having it here? Why are we not having it for ourselves? That's what wealth is all about. So building businesses starts from there. Let's have our own businesses. But even the small businesses, our women here were supposed to be, I don't know how you define wealth, whether you define it by a Range Rover or having 3 triple-story houses. But if there's anybody in the United States who is heavily favored, it's a black woman, even better, immigrant black. So if we have to start from there, we start from the bottom, the least favored, although they are the ones who control are the Caucasians, because they control Venezuela. They own they control the center of power, but they seem to be there. But when it comes to favoring people in giving out contracts, grants, who is number one on the list? They look at women. But within women, they say, okay, the first people that we are going to give, they actually put percentage. We have 25% of this 100 million is going to go to women. Which women? It's every woman. But if you are black, you get more points. If you are black and immigrant, you get double points. How come you don't have $1 million contracts? They're out there in King County, they're out there in Pierce County, they are giving them away. They are looking for people like you. And that's what we're talking about with this side, building our businesses. Let's teach each other to say the opportunities are there. All you need to do is fill out this form. You'll get a contract to start supplying even toilet papers. But it will be a 250,000 contract for 5 years every year. All you need to do is go to Costco, get toilet papers, deliver them to the city council. But they're looking for women. They're looking for people of color like us. We are not showing them. The project, the housing project by town, Africa Town, they came and they say, we are breaking ground and we're going to be building these houses.
$13 million.
$13 million. And what we are looking for is very simple. We're looking for people of color, Africans and African Americans. Come, bring your small truck, bring your wheelbarrow, bring anything. We'll give you a contract. None of us showed up. 13 million gone. All I needed was go look for a loan or somebody who has got a truck, what do you call that, cheaper, or whatever. Or even just to clean out after the broken ground, it's money. Somebody else did that, they got millions. It wasn't us. Why? We don't work together. So when we're talking about building businesses, those are the things we are talking about. Let's work together. Let's show each other where the opportunities are. Let's make sure that we are ready to take those advantages as women, as people of color. And once we start doing that, running our own businesses, building our credit, then we'll start having passive income from real estate and other investments that we can do. So very quickly, I know that's a sign to say my time is up. In the past year, we had a conference, building Black Better. That was the second one. And we are having it again next year. We are also having events, financial literacy being conducted by Brother Daniel. And Brother Kennedy is going to be hosting an event on how you can move from renting to owning your own house, paying just the same amount that you're paying. Only this time you'll be paying it to yourself, not to your landlord. He'll teach you how to do it and maybe be able to do it within 12 months?
Less than 12 months. Yeah.
There you are. So there we are. So those are upcoming events. Please keep an eye and be alert because nobody's going to pull us out of where we are apart from ourselves. Thank you very much for your time.
Brother Murray, I think you saw your speech. It's as a young, young person coming from Malawi, it's an honor to work in the same space with Mr. Simango. Mr. Simango is a formidable guy. He's written speeches for high-profile people in Malawi. It's amazing to work with him. The next is the VR voter registration. I sit on voter registration committee, so I'm going to do a quick update on that. We're changing the name from voter registration to civic engagement. When we did voter registration, that was 2020, the election, right? With that election, the Joe Biden? Was that 2020?
Yeah.
So going up to that election, we were trying to drum up the beat, the vote. So we think that voter registration it limits us. So now we gotta do civic engagement, we gotta broaden it. What's coming up with that? We are working with partnership, Brother Wale is going to speak about that. He's gonna be our guest speaker today. He's gonna expand on civic engagement in our community, on how we can work with other partners and use our data, use our vote to sit on the table and demand registration that works in our favor. Another big news, the board has asked the voter registration committee, the civic engagement committee, to run the next election for the board. That's huge. Yep. That brings up transparency and everything that comes with it. So they're gearing up for that. And also, our ED has promised the voter registration committee or civic engagement committee, that have its timer, to have a retreat. So if you're in that committee, we're gonna have a retreat very soon. And that means good food and everything else you need. So that's update for voter registration, civic engagement. Arthur, do we want to switch up? Do we have him do his speech and then go back to way forward? So switch it? In the interest of time.
We can do if we just did the way forward in like 2 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah, let's just do it really quick. So that he can just spend the last.
All right, so people, they've been asking, so what's next for the coalition? What's happening with the coalition? The board has created a few objectives that I'm gonna have the ED go over quickly, and I'm gonna time you. 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
So just really quickly, we are going to, in a nutshell, we're gonna continue some things, we're gonna stop some things, going to Sister Lena's question, what have we, realized, and we're going to increase some of these things. So we're gonna continue on collecting data, so we can own our own data and be able to tell our own stories to the policymakers. We are going to do more engagement with legislation. I think Brother Eddie already talked about that. We're actually looking to work with an elder in our community to do African Descent Legislative Day in early January. So we're gonna be working with voter registration or Civic Engagement Committee on that one. We're looking at housing, affordable housing, and that's part of EEC. We house in that committee. And we're looking to continue setting targets on fundraising and meeting those targets and reporting back to you guys at least a couple times a year. And we're going to increase speaking up for each other and being positive and encouragement light in our community. To encourage, foster growth and economic empowerment. And then we're gonna increase connections with across the ocean, or the continent, directly with the continent. And we are going to, thanks to our president, stop being afraid of success and having a limited viewpoint on what we can achieve and reach for the stars, because no matter what, reach for the moon, because no matter what, you're gonna end up with the stars. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. All right, without further ado, I'm very excited about this young man who's about to speak, Wale. Wale is a son of Brother Kennedy Ankolusu from Nigeria. We have seen, yes. We have seen this young man rise, within our community. And we've seen him sit on the big tables, big boy tables, or big girls tables, and demand change. And for him to accept to come and speak to us today about civic engagement and what we need to be doing in the community to count is amazing. And without further ado, Brother Wale, the mic is yours.
Thank you for that intro. I was not expecting that.
Politician money.
My name is Wale Akinsotu, from Nigeria, but born here at Federal Way. Like they said, that's my dad over there. Brad Kennedy Akinsotu. So I'm gonna keep it short. We wanted to do a few interviews with some candidates, but it didn't work out. So I just want to make sure that the people in this room are aware that there's an election coming up. Y'all knew that, right? November 2nd. How many people have actually voted yet? Raise your hand. Wow, only 4 of us? Okay. Have you guys at least gotten the ballot in the mail? Yes. Okay, cool. So if you look at the ballot, there are a lot of familiar faces that you've seen on ads and campaigning, but there's also a lot of different initiatives that are just hard to read. And they purposely write it so that it is hard to read and hard to track because they don't want you to be involved. So I wanted to share a resource with you guys today called the Progressive Voters Guide. Have you guys heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah. For those who haven't voted already, the Progressive Voters Guide on the Washington Progressive Voters Guide is online. And if you type that in, you could do it right now or at least write it down. They'll take you to the specific city and county that you're voting in, and they'll give you recommendations on who to vote for. They also give a lot of different explanations for what the candidates are about and what the different initiatives are about and why it's important to you. So wanted to share that resource with you. We don't have time to get into every single thing on this ballot. It's different from county to county. But if you go on that state or if you go on that website, you can find information that is specific to where you live. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So Eddie was speaking earlier about what it means to be civically engaged and how the coalition wants to move into being more engaged civically. At the end of the day, civics or politics is a long-term game. You guys know that, right? The people that we elect, a lot of the time we won't see the effects of what they do or the decisions that they make until years later or even outside of their term. At the same time, there are decisions that directly affect us immediately, like funding, like when it comes to the judge, the decisions that they're making on a day-to-day basis. So these are people that we need to that have a lot of control in our future as well as in our immediate lives, and we need to be involved in picking those people. We need to be involved in actually running for those offices as well. So the Civic Engagement team, I'm working with them to partner up with Africa Town and some other Black organizations in Seattle, and we're gonna redefine civics. Right now, we're not really represented, right? And I think a big part of that is because our communities have been, we've been left out of the conversation, and a lot of us don't see the value in using our vote because at the end of the day, the politicians are gonna do what they want, right? It feels like our voice does not matter. But as everyone has been saying, if we're pulling together, we're stronger as one. And we have a lot of different communities within Africa, the African community here in Washington. If we pull together, we would have a very strong voice. And so a part of what we hope to do with this initiative is to solve people's immediate needs. So in this coalition, we have organizations that work with youth, education, they help with rental assistance, they help with food needs for people who need it. We cover everything within this coalition. And so we want to be able to knock on doors and actually talk with our communities and make sure that these resources are being distributed not just through social media or mailing groups, but like actually in person through events and actually knocking on doors. So we're working with a data analytics company to actually get that information to figure out where are our people located within King County and how, where are they located, and then from there we can actually go and access them. So solving people's immediate needs builds trust, right? If someone is there for you when you need rental assistance, we are able to connect them with Mother Africa and help them. Now the coalition has built a relationship with that person. They know that they are trusted. They know that they actually have their best interest in mind. So when election time comes around, we actually have this network of people that trust and know that what we're about, and we're able to pull their votes together and put an agenda together. Right now, we don't have an agenda. We wonder why the politicians don't listen to us. We wonder why our voices aren't being heard. Because we're not speaking their language, and we need to put together what we want for our communities. And a big part of that is the data. So as we're giving immediate resources, we're also asking people, what do you need? What on a day-to-day basis is bothering you within your community, within your neighborhoods, and how can we fix that? So as we're having these deeper discussions, we're able to put together data. I remember the coalition back in like 2017 or 2018, we did these surveys about what do we need in our communities. I don't know if you guys remember that. We still use that data.
Yeah.
And that was just being put together by maybe 100 or so community leaders. And that's what we've been using for grants. That's what we've been using in presentations. Now imagine if we're able to have thousands of responses from our actual community members, put that into data, and then use that to back up our agenda, the agenda that we set within this room. That's powerful. That gets us those millions of dollars. That gets us the seat at the table to speak about what's actually bothering and hurting our communities. So data is a big part of this initiative, as well as creating jobs. Usually we talk about civics and politics only on election season. And usually it's during the presidential elections because we think that's so important. Which it is, but what's more important is our local elections, which is coming up in a few days. But also it's important to keep people engaged outside of election years. The problems that people face are day to day, whether there's a presidential election around the corner or not. And so we need to be engaged with our communities as a coalition, as community builders, figure out what they want, and through this initiative, we'll also be able to create jobs that are year-round, not just during political seasons. So just to recap, we're doing data analytics. We're bringing in our data, and we're making sure that our communities are being heard and that we have the data to back up our agenda. We are solving people's immediate needs, building trust within our communities, and making sure that people know that we have their backs. And the organizations that are getting the money and all these resources to help our community, now they have a better outlet for how to share and distribute these resources. And we are creating jobs, not just during election seasons, but we're actually creating jobs for young people, for older people who want to be involved in politics or civics. This is a great way for them to get started and do that year-round, and actually get paid for the work that they're doing. So that's a little bit about the initiative that we're starting up. We're hopefully going to start in 2022. 2022 is a huge election year, so we'll definitely be doing work, but we are playing the long-term game moving forward with the Civic group. And just excited to get started and hope you guys can be a part of that. Hey, thank you so much. When we see our sons come and speak to us, how do we feel as mothers? How do we feel as mothers? Oh, yes, we raise them well, right? Yeah. Train up a child the way he ought to go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. Thank you. So we have come to the end of our meeting. And before I give the closing remarks, I want to ask, if you're a president of any community organization and you're here, please can you stand up?
President or leadership?
Or leadership? Yes. Stand up, please. You can. We are so much humbled to have you in our meeting because you're the voice for this organization. To have you seated here, leaving your busy schedule, attending to your community, to come to this event and partner with the coalition, it is the greatest thing to have. And we are so much blessed as the board to have you here. And when you go back, please give the good report. And if there is a bad report you found, please talk to our board members and find out how we can do it. We can fix it. But you are our ambassadors, and let's continue working together because together we can, for we are one. Thank you. To all people that have come here today, to every member that is sitting in the Zoom meeting today, or anybody who is watching us live through YouTube, we want to say thank you. We want to say thank you because thank you means zikomo. Thank you means there was a, okay, where I come from this, it means mbuyamono. Thank you means basi. Asante sana. Is it mavita or shukran? Thank you so much. You mean everything to this organization. We, as the board, we are your servants. You elected us or you appointed us so that we can carry your agenda. This is your organization. Attend the committee meetings and be part of it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the day. Hi! If you're happy and you know, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know, and you really want to show. If you're happy and you know, clap your hands. Thank you so much.
You guys, real quickly, we're gonna have Peter take a couple of today. And then I also wanna make sure before you guys run out, we wanna do a group picture and have some folks holding up the African sign, so don't run out without doing that. You guys.
I have only two announcements. I have two announcements to say. As well as and I'm veteran and I know all African communities, they are people who drive, so I have the leaders. And we have at least 4 days for meeting that will take place this one in November. And the meeting, those meetings will be about the country. I think we have heard the third pay raise happened in Seattle last year. Right now, the pay in Seattle is good. We want to do this expansion throughout the state. And we are inviting all our members, all African leaders, they need to come to all those meetings. Because the people who are the bride are African. Our numbers may be like 70% right. So we have on Saturday, November the 6th, that will be Somalia community and English. So we'll have a gathering around table that will speak English and Somalia. And all the Somalians are welcome to that meeting. And even if you are not Somalian, the language that will be used, it will not be only Somalian, but it will be English also. So everybody is welcome. If you have time, it will be 2 p.m. November the 6th. November the 10th, we'll have a roundtable for Arabic speaking, especially Sudanese and all those speaking Arabic. So we can come there, but the Arabic and English. All people are welcome to come. Not only Sudanese, because the event will not be Arabic only, will be English and Arabic, both languages. On November 17, we'll have also another event, 10 p.m. It will be Amharic and English. So everybody also is invited. All those who are drivers, they need to come and participate there. It will be Amharic and English. On November 23rd, 10 a.m., it will be general, the global. You know, everybody, you are from China, you are from India, you are from anywhere, West African, everybody has to come there. Those are the events that will take place. Those are round table. And our goal is to plan a fair pay for drivers. Because if you have somebody here in Ken or in Ghana, non-Ghana, the pay is too low. So we need to support the expansion of the fair pay across the country. And you are all asked to go and tell all our community members to come and join those days. If you forget our freedom, November 6, 2 p.m., it will be English and Somalia. November 10, it will be 10 a.m., Arabic and English. November 17, it will be Amharic and English, will be 10:30. Tuesday, November 23rd, will be English. Everybody is invited to come. You have a question for it?
Yeah, do you have that information so you can circulate on the WhatsApp?
Like on WhatsApp group.
Yeah, you can have this one also and share it.
Or you can share the WhatsApp group.
Oh, okay, I will do that. I will share that.
Because we're not gonna remember that.
It's so many dates,
Just take a picture, right?
Okay, I will share. I have paper here to do that. And thank you, my people. I'm so glad to see you all.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Martha, for the gift. I really appreciate it. And it's amazing. You are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So you're free to mingle, and please, I want you, before you leave this, make sure that you take your picture here. And we also need your financial support. And find the t-shirts, that is the pride that we are taking home as Africans.